Hello, you're watching the iDRAC firmware update through the remote GUI interface demo. My name is Peter Tsai, the Systems Management Evangelist for Dell Tech Center. The first step to updating the DRAC is to download the firmware image needed. To do so, we go to support.dell.com, which is the website that contains all of the drivers and firmware needed for any Dell system. We're going to the Enterprise IT section because we need a server download. We click on Select a Product, which then takes us to a screen that allows us to select the model of server that we want. From there, we select Servers, Storage, and Networking, and scroll down to Power Edge Server. In this menu, we're looking for the servers that we want to update. In this case, we're looking for the R710. We select that and confirm that that's the selection we wanted. On the next page, you want to click on the Drivers and Downloads tab. By default, the drivers that show up first are the latest drivers. We want to see them all, so we click on View All. On the next screen, we'll see a lot of driver and firmware categories. Because the iDRAC is integrated onto the motherboard and embedded in the server, we want to choose Embedded Server Management. Clicking on this section expands the category, and now we can see the iDRAC6 firmware. We go over to the Download button. When I click on it, a dialog box pops up at the bottom asking if I'd like to save the firmware image. Here I'm going to hit Save. I'm using Internet Explorer, which is the browser that I'd recommend. Some of the other browsers handle pop-ups a little bit differently, so you might encounter some issues there. But with IE, it generally works all the time. For the rest of this video, we're going to upgrade the iDRAC firmware inside of an M710. The M710 is a blade server, so I'm going to go back through the process and download the iDRAC version for blade servers, which is different from the monolithic or standalone rack server version we just downloaded earlier in this demo. So going through the same steps as earlier, we select the M710, click on Confirm, go to the Drivers and Downloads tab, click on View All. We once again go to Embedded Server Management, and then download the Dell DRAC firmware. Now that I've shown you the long way to download the firmware image, there's actually an easier way. You can utilize our website, delltechcenter.com, and simply go to the DRAC page, which I'm bringing up right now. To get to this page, you simply click on Dell Systems Management and then go to the Dell Remote Access Controller page. When you scroll down a little bit to the bottom of the page, you'll see the current versions of the Remote Access Controller versions. And there's a download link for monolithic firmware and for modular firmware. When we click through on one of these links, we're taken to a page on support.dell.com that shows various versions of the update packages for the iDRAC. You may be wondering why we're looking at a different screen now than we saw when we went through support.dell.com. You can get to this screen going through that process, but instead of directly clicking on the download button, you should click on the More Download Options link right under the download button. So on this screen we see the various options for Linux, Windows, and the installer package that we downloaded earlier. There's also a separate text-based page that tells you how to upgrade the Dell DRAC firmware through various methods. We're showing you the GUI method right now. There's also an installer method as well as a command line based method as well. The firmware images that we downloaded earlier are in this directory you see here. They're actually compressed zip files, so we'll have to specify a directory to unzip them to. As I stated before, there's two versions of the DRAC firmware. One is for rack servers and one is for blade servers. The rack-based server image or monolithic image ends in the extension .d6. The blade image ends in .imc. Now that we've downloaded and extracted the firmware image, we need to apply it. To do so, we need to log into the iDRAC interface, which is accessible by typing in the IP address of your DRAC. From there, simply click on the Update tab and browse to the firmware image that we extracted earlier. Because we're updating an iDRAC in a blade server, we want to find the file that ends in the extension .imc. Then, you click on the Upload button to kick the process off. We've sped up the time here to keep the video a little bit shorter, but this shouldn't take more than a few minutes. Once the update process verifies the firmware image that you uploaded, you'll be able to see the existing version of the DRAC and then the new version that you're updating to. Clicking on the Update button, then confirming that it's essential not to interrupt the process, starts the actual update. Once it's set in motion, the update process should take a few minutes. Again, we've sped up time so we don't have to wait through the complete process during this video. Once the update is completed, you'll get a message saying so. Here it says the firmware upgrade has been completed and that the iDRAC is being reset. So if you want to continue to use the GUI interface, you'll have to log out and log back in. So let's do that. We'll open a new browser and then go back to the login screen, put in our credentials, and then on the system summary page we can scroll down and we can zoom into the firmware version, and we can confirm that yes, we've upgraded to the latest version, which is at the time of this video 3.2.1. At the beginning of this video we had version 3.0.2, so the update was a success. Thanks for joining me, Peter Tsai, in this demo of the iDRAC6 firmware update through the remote GUI interface. As always, you can learn more about Dell Enterprise IT products at delltechcenter.com.